because a lot of people don't realize that they are the brand themselves.
No, I
right?
could imagine. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're working with somebody and they're thinking about all these other things that they do. And the thing that they do is what they feel is the brand, but they forget that that's their face. I think a lot of times that comes into perspective when something bad happens, right?
Yeah,
because at that point, nobody's talking about a movie or a show or a product. They're talking about that person. And I just thought of that just now. So initially I had to tell him you are the brand, right? And so we started building the brand from there. I found the holes on where he was lacking and we built from there. Social strategy just came as a common sense approach to me, but I started using some foundations that I had from my background in advertising, things that I've learned in web and app development, started using those in social. And we became like at one point, like we hover between like the third and fifth highest organically engaged accounts on Meta. I mean, if you look at, that accounts for literally billions of impressions on a $0 budget.
That's incredible. See, that right there, it excites me, especially I'm paying all this money for paid ads and Google ads and Lord knows all sorts of things. And, you know, there's a marketing company for every little thing saying, oh, I can make you do this. I can get you 1 million views. I can do that. But it's not necessarily organic. And so that's very exciting that you were able to do that.
Yeah, organic is where it's at, man. You know, we were talking before the show and I liken it to like a good brisket, right? You're a Texas boy. You know about brisket, right?
Hell yeah.
So a good brisket, you know, is like low and slow, right?
Yep.
And sometimes organic, you know, because it's a slow grind, people want it now. They want the results now. And there's ways to go about that. Paid, unfortunately, man, paid is like you have to feed that monster. Once you keep that thing going, you have to keep it going. And that same monster cannibalizes everything that you've built organically.
Yeah.
So another thing we talked about before the show is like, if you think about it, let's reverse it a little bit. Let's say you take this bodybuilder, right? And he's like using steroids. He's going to gain all this mass. He's going to be big. You know, he's going to have all these muscles, right? That's your organic strategy. Let's just say that, right? If he took a 3-month, 6-month break off of those steroids, what would happen to his physique?
He's going to get little.
Right? And then he would have to start all over again.
He's going to have small werewolf stomach.
Okay. So when he takes that break, that's like you running an ad, right?
No, that is
small werewolves.
Small werewolves.
Yeah. So,
if y'all don't know what that is, that's testicles. Anyway.
So that's what happens, man.
Yeah.
And so for me, you know, I think the value that I bring is not just the fact that my clients operate on a zero budget, but just the fact that we're building something that's true and that's going to last. You know, so that's the important thing for me is adding value to something that, you know, for something that's going to last. Man,
that's freaking great. And for me, I understand that because Lord knows I'm spending a bunch of money on Facebook, which, you know, it's good and bad. And, you know, that's one reason I'm like, man, Jay, I need some more info. I got to know how to do this right.
And no, ads are great, man. Don't get me wrong. They do have value if you use them correctly. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely value there in using ads. I just always advise it shouldn't be your only strategy, right? Yeah. We're at a point in time where nobody wants to be sold anymore, right? Yeah. And so my background in sales has always been a consultative approach. You know, I'm a people guy. I'm an energy guy. Yeah. I make a friend everywhere I go. I have a piece of art that this guy literally came up to me and gave me just off of like how I look today. He's like, dude, you have great energy, man. I've just been watching you. He's like, can you take this art for me? Look the guy up. He's like a really big artist, right? So awesome. he gave me this cool print to take with me. But you know, that approach, that type of approach is, to me, is where we're at now. Long gone are the days of like a Kardashian holding something up and saying, you should buy this. And then everybody runs to buy it. Now it's more of like the everyday influencer who somebody can connect with through that screen. Yeah. And it resonates with them and they feel that emotional attachment. That's where the gold is, right? So like your everyday influencers, you know, you as a doctor, you know, taking somebody's story and telling it from 2 years ago to now, showing that progress. Somebody on the other end of that screen is going to resonate with that real woman or that real man that had that problem that I have more than if I see this you know, this famous celebrity I've seen do the same thing for 5 other brands.
Yeah. And people get it because they're like, oh, they're just selling something. They're just selling something. And as physicians, especially doing what we do, especially in aesthetics and such, if we could get somebody like a Kardashian or or anybody famous for that matter that a lot of people know, it does help, but it is so short-lived. It's what resonates more with people is saying, seeing somebody that has a similar outcome or similar problem and they've either fixed it or they've gotten better or whatever. And I think that resonates more. And I'm slowly learning that, we've had conversations about like doing before and afters or doing, a story, or should we, just get in front of a camera and talk about it. And sometimes all of those are good, but it has to be real.
Yeah. One of the biggest things in social that, there's so many things that have changed. The one thing that hasn't changed is the most valuable thing is telling the story, right? That has not changed. And so I may not connect with the guy on the other end with the way he looks. I may not connect with his lifestyle. I may not connect with a bunch of things, but his story might be the exact thing I connect with, right? So that guy might tell a story and he might be jacked and all these other things. I'm like, man, I don't connect with him on that level, right? I'm getting there. I promise, Doc, I'm getting there.
Oh, we're going to get you there. We're going to get you there.
But on his story, right? That's going to be the emotional draw for me. And the story is so big, right? I think a lot of times with brands also, whether it be a physician, a surgeon, or, a product, the origin story for me is the biggest part, because we've all met Batman and Iron Man and even the villain, the Joker. We've all met them where they are, right? Our whole lives, we've known them as that. But the most intriguing and the most engaging, the most compelling part of that story is how they became that, right? And then you're looking, you're like, oh my gosh, so hold on, Bruce Wayne became Batman because the Joker shot his That's the part where you're like, oh snap, like nobody expected that, right? Like that is so true. Yeah, that's the most compelling part. So imagine that, but with your story.
Yeah.
Imagine the whole story of how you decided, you know what? The whole cocktail thing and Tom Cruise, that was this guy back in the day. Yeah, no, I'm just playing.
Well, no, but I tried to be.
No, but that whole story about how and why you got into medicine.
Yeah.
The how and why on how you transitioned from being an anesthesiologist into getting into longevity and regenerative medicine. That's the draw, dude. That's like what really gets somebody and lets them know, like, then sometimes it's another thing, right? It's like, hey, this guy's not just in it because it's a fad or a trend or because it's a high, high dollar ticket. This guy's real about this stuff. He really believes in it. Yeah. So that story, man.
And it's great that you say that, because I have a handful of patients that have, as an example, have these, pretty darn good bodies. And they just need a little tweak here and there. And that's great. And this is kind of why, you look at a lot of surgeons and they're like, oh, I'm only going to work on these people. Well, they barely weigh anything. They got a little puff here and there. And, they don't require a lot. But some of the patients that have lipedema that I've worked with, and they just have very large legs or very large areas of their body that we have to sometimes treat them 2, 3, even 4 times. Their faces, when they're so happy, when they're like, oh my God, I can see my knee now. Or, my ankles they're my ankles because it was a big, large area, swollen leg. And so that probably means more to me as a physician.